welcome back to another tier list. Today we are doing another Heroes of Might and Magic 5 Tribes of the East tier list, but we're only doing tier 1 units. I do have a previous video of all the creatures, as you can see here, in a tier list, but it was a little much, so we're going to be doing each video for each tier. So today we're doing tier 1. So please let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this tier list. Check out all my other ones that I will have linked in the description as well. And do not forget to like and subscribe, and let us get started. I think regular basic stock skeleton we just gotta put in D. Unfortunately, a lot of these tier 1s are just pretty shit because they are tier 1s, but some are very, very useful and very good, so we will put them wherever they need to be. Skeleton Archer, I'll put in B. I think he's a solid tier 1 archer unit, but still very weak. You're not going to get a whole lot of damage. Unfortunately, Necropolis is not the best backline attack. They're much more in your face with vampire, zombies, and ghost type. But skeleton archers aren't too bad. They're decent to have back there, and I think that they're better than this shielded skeleton. I actually have used him very, very little. I know that he can actually block ranged attacks, but the only person that you're really going to end up blocking if you don't move him is your lich, and that's just not really worth it to me. Just for the possibility of possibly blocking some ranged attack. Now, don't get me wrong, liches are definitely a high value target, especially against like AI and stuff for whatever reason, but I don't think he's really worth it. But still, if you'd rather not have the skeleton archer, I think he's a decent choice. And either way, if you keep him next to somebody, then that shield block can still be pretty useful. Basic imp, I will put basic imp into B. Biggest reason why is because it still steals your mana. It does not steal all of it, but just the fact that every single turn it automatically does, especially against high mana using teams like Academy or even Sylvan, or obviously taking away from heroes as well, that is it's very devastating, which is why the upgraded imp I have to put into S, just to essentially steal all the mana from the enemy team first turn, is insane. It can literally just instantly devastate your team, and there's no real way to get that back. So against high mana using teams, it's truly devastating. Against other teams, it's still very difficult to deal with because you have no spells. I think this one is a little different. I might be a little bit wrong, but I will give him to A because I think he does a little bit different with the siphoning, but I don't use Inferno as much, so I'm definitely not as keen on this guy here. I'm going to go down to the Gremlins. Gremlin, I think, is definitely one of the better tier 1s in the game for sure. Now, obviously, some of the units, obviously in the entire game, have the possibility of using that hero, so the Gremlin Master. So you essentially would start with almost I think actually over 100 gremlin or close to it if you used him. But either way, whether you did that or not, gremlins are definitely a solid tier 1 choice. Being backline, I think they're much better than the skeleton archer damage wise, and even not necessarily so much damage wise, but the saboteur and repair up here with these two, whichever one you would like to use, is definitely a cool ability to be able to use for a tier 1 unit that doesn't necessarily do insane damage, obviously, but still a very strong, solid choice if you're using Academy. but still very much enjoy the gremlins. Peasants, pretty shit overall. I almost don't even want to put them in B. They're pretty... Yeah, I just have to put all the peasants pretty low. I mean, they're just... I would argue that they're probably the weakest tier 1, or least useful. Just because a lot of these other tier 1s and ones that you see have some sort of use, whether it's, being an archer, stealing mana, sabotaging, we got poison and traps and stuff down here, which we'll get to, but the conscripts and peasants and everything are just, I would argue, one of the worst tier 1s in the game, if not the worst for sure. The only benefit is the tax that you get, but that's not really going to save you at all in any game. Then we have the Guardians. Honestly, I think this is one of the most mid-tier ones you can get. I can't really put them any higher or lower. I mean, you could put, the actual stock one a little bit lower if you wanted to, but yeah, they're okay. They're not gonna necessarily win you any games, maybe early, but they're not awful either. They're decent for a tier 1, but they're just very all mid to me. Pixies and sprites and the dryad is a little difficult. I almost want to put them in A, but they're so weak. I will put them in A, mostly due. They probably should be in B, but just with the possibility that getting the Wasp Swarm for a tier 1 is nice. Being able to hit multiple targets is nice. While they are super, super weak, but that's pretty much every single tier 1 in the game for sure. These are probably the most offensive ones here with the Guardians. But also just the fact that there are definitely some heroes that can benefit the sprites and pixies much more if you choose those heroes. So I will put them a little bit higher, but definitely A minus area if there was, A minus, A plus types. Goblins, pretty shit, but I will put these ones in B mostly because I'm gonna put the trap in A. So goblins are pretty shit. They're definitely one of the weaker ones, but utility-wise, I don't remember exactly what this one does, but it's nothing super crazy. But I do like the Goblin Trapper. Many reasons, because obviously being able to set a trap can definitely help stop someone on the enemy team should they be moving over it. And the option of once you get your Cyclops with Stronghold, being able to take one goblin from the Cyclops and be launched and do a pretty good amount of damage is definitely a use that they have. So they can sit back there with each turn, depending on if somebody has gone over their trap, put another one. Cyclops can throw one at a time and do damage for them. They're useful. They have their uses, but they are insanely weak and very non-damaging. Oh, and then we have the scouts. I think the scouts are definitely one of the worst tier 1s as well. I'll give the scout a C, mostly just because he is an archer. I think that gives everybody a little bit of a bump that for a tier 1, or honestly any unit, the fact that they have to get to you essentially. And we're going to skip the poison one for a second. The other one that goes invisible I think is pretty shit as well. He moves insanely slow. Tier 1 still does not do very high damage obviously as well, even while invisible. And because you switch him to this upgrade instead of the poison one, he is a melee unit and not a archer. So then we will give the poison one a B. The biggest reasons why he's in B and not lower, because he still does shit damage, is because He gives out poison damage to anybody hit, obviously anybody that can take poison damage, not a gargoyle or a golem or something like that. But then also the possibilities of heroes benefiting him if you choose them, whether it's the poison master or the scout guy as well. So he can have some benefits to him, but overall still a very trash tier 1 unit. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think about my Heroes of Might and Magic Tribes of the East tier 1 creatures tier list. We will be doing, like I said, all of the other tiers per one. I will link down in the description my full tier list where I did every single creature all at once. It's pretty massive. I also did a towns tier list, which will be in the description as well. But like, subscribe, let me know down in the comments, and get ready for some more. We'll see you in the next one.